Hello, this is Crane, and this is an introductory video to walling in the Protoss versus Zerg matchup in StarCraft Brood War. I have three topics I want to cover here. I'm going to show some standard walls that you're going to see on many maps in the modern Brood War era. I'm going to talk about some pros and cons of different types of walls, basically how to evaluate a wall. And I'm also going to show you how to test a wall. So if you try a new map you've never walled in on before, how do you develop a new wall? So first thing you want to do is pick the map that you want to practice on in a single player game. Put yourself as Protoss and an AI opponent as Zerg, and then we're going to jump in and apply our cheat codes. So we're going to do power overwhelming, show me the money, operation qual, black sheep wall, and the gathering. And then we're going to send our probes to each natural where we're going to wall, and we're going to build nexuses. And then we're just going to start trying out our wall-ins. So I'm going to show you, like I said, 3 examples of typical wall-ins, and then discuss their pros and cons. So in horizontal positions like this and like this position, this is a very typical wall that you're going to see. You're going to put a pylon on the bottom because pylons are tight against walls when they're on the bottom. Forge is going to be right above that, and then the gateway right at the top. So like I said, there's no gap here. There is a 1 zealot or probe gap here, and a 2 zealot or probe gap here. And notice how my wall is completely flat on the side towards my nexus. This allows us to make our cannons nice and flat, so that if a Hydra bust comes, then all of our cannons engage at the same time. So it's really nice to be able to have a wall like this. So this is a very typical wall in horizontal openings like this. The same exact wall will apply in this position. So let's do that. We have our nexus back here. We're going to put our pylon on the bottom, our forge right above that, and our gate at the top. So you're going to see this in a lot of positions. This is on Eclipse, Circuit Breakers, Fighting Spirit. It's all over the place. Okay, so this is one of the very standard walls that I want to show. Let me get my zealots in position. Oops. Okay. The next wall I want to show is in vertical positions. So this wall will work in this position and in this position. I'll show it down here. You're going to have your pylon. The pylon positioning is actually quite difficult to remember, but basically your pylon's going to be back and to the right. We're going to put our forge 2 hexes above, so you place it here and then 2 hexes above, and then touch the wall on the left. And then our gateway is going to be flush on the back side and touching the right. So the forge is always tight to walls on the left, and the gate is always tight on the right. If you get that backwards, then your wall is not tight. Wings can get in. So again, this allows us to have lots of cannons. It's a 2 zealot wall, and this is very typical for vertical positions. So this exact wall can also apply to this position, but instead I'm going to show you a 3rd wall. On this one, we're going to put our pylon on the right, touching the wall because it's tight here. Again, just like we learned earlier in this position, forge is tight on the left, so we're going to put our forge on the left. And then gateway, if the gateway is on top of the forge, it's tight here as well, just like this position. Gateway's on top of the forge, it's tight. So this is actually a 1 zealot wall. Still gives us quite a lot of space for cannons. And this is typically a wall you'll see if you go gate expand, or if you do an 11 Nexus 11 Forge build. because it's got a 1 gap wall. So let's talk about, I've touched on the number of cannons we can fit and the gaps. Let's talk about the pros and cons of different walls. Number one is number of gaps. Typically there's between 1 and 3 gaps for modern walls. Fewer is better. With this wall-in, for example, when I only have 1 zealot, so let's say I did a forge expand and I only have 1 zealot, I have to block this choke with probes in order for zerglings not to run by if, for example, my opponent went 9 full speed. So that's bad for my economy because I have probes blocking, and it's still vulnerable because speedlings can come in, snipe my probes, and then run right in the main. And notice, just to note so that you don't get confused, you do need 2 probes here to block this. So it's a 3 probe or zealot wall here. For this position, I only need 2, so that's a little bit better. And in this position, I only need 1, which is fantastic, because it's really hard for zerglings to get in, since it's only 1 gap. The second thing to consider is cannons. You want to be able to fit 2 rows of cannons in your wall, because if a 3-hatch Hydra bust came in, you may need 10 or 12 cannons, so you need lots of space to put all your cannons in. So this position has 2 rows available. This position has 2 rows available. This has 2. This one's a little bit different. It can't fit 2 right here, but it has tons of space, so it's actually okay as well. So that's a big consideration as well. A third thing to consider is if Dragoons can get in and out. So it's obviously much less concern than the first 2, but it's something to remember. When you get into the mid game, it's nice to be able to get Dragoons in and out of a wall, if possible, without destroying any of your buildings. In this position, a Dragoon can fit through here. In this position, a Dragoon can fit through here. But in this position, you can't fit a Dragoon through. So what we actually have to do is build a second pylon to power our gate, forge, and cannons. Maybe even one up here as well. And then destroy this pylon in order to get our Dragoons out. It's a small thing, but it's something to consider. The last thing to consider is our forge versus Hydras. So in a position where your cannons are below the forge like this, or if the cannon's above the forge like this, Hydras can't snipe the forge. Your cannon will save the forge against that. So that's important to know against a 3-hatch Hydra, for example, where we're upgrading +1. We know the Hydras aren't going to be able to snipe our +1. If you're in a horizontal position, meaning your cannons are on the right or on the left, Hydras will always be able to snipe your forge. So you cannot save your +1. If you see a 3-hatch Hydra in this position, you might as well just cancel your +1, because they're just going to snipe it. So those are the 4 considerations that I would typically put when I'm developing a new wall. Zealot gaps, number of cannons I can fit, whether Dragoon can get in and out, and my forge, whether I can save it or not. So, we talked about some standard walls and some things to think about when you're learning or when you're developing your walls. The last thing I want to show is how to test your walls. So if I am doing a wall for the first time, I would make the map just like I did here. I would make my walls just like I did here. And then I would make a Dark Archon in order to mind control some Zerg units. I guess I could run around there. But I'm going to mind control some Zerglings. Obviously, if they haven't made Zerglings yet, then I need to mind control a drone. But I'm just going to take these Zerglings and test my walls. So I can put my Zealots in position and then just try it. And this wall is tight. You can't do that with a probe or with any Protoss units because Zerglings are smaller than any Protoss unit. So you have to really use a Zergling. There's some gaps that a probe can fit, or that a probe can't fit, but a Zergling can. So in all these positions, we're just going to take our Ling and try to send it through the wall. So this one's tight, can't get through, and same for these other two positions. We'd bring the ling here, try to send it through. Bring the ling here, try to send it through. So if I'm making a brand new build, I will do exactly this. I will make, or not a brand new build, but a brand new map. I will make a single player game, put in my cheat codes, build my walls, get my Dark Archon, mind control, and test my walls. And then I'll take a screenshot of each position. So I have a folder where I take a screenshot of the exact wall that I made in each position. And I have it saved on my desktop, so whenever I need to do a map, say for BWCL, or if you play in STPL, or even when new ladder maps come out, you can always reference it and know, oh, this is how I walled in, this is how I decided is the optimal way to wall in on this map. So I hope this was helpful. I think it's a very important skill, and it's pretty hard as a new player to learn how to do these walls, but I hope this is helpful for you to learn how to make walls effectively. So good luck.